Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be having a little bit of a look at an Aromatisse card. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We don't tend to see many Aromatisse cards. Of course, the very first Aromatisse card we ever saw back in the X and Y base set was phenomenal. It moves damage around fairly nicely indeed. Since then, we had one back in Breakthrough, and then one in Breakpoint, 2 sets in a row. Since then, we've had nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, Aromatisse is back. The question is Aromatisse actually any good? Well, our translation here comes from 2new1223 over on Twitter. And to start off with, it's got 90 HP, which is great in expanded with level ball, and kind of low in every other possible circumstance. We have a weakness to metal, which, I mean, it's alright. Metal isn't great right now, and, it's 90 HP. It's not exactly like you've got a huge amount of HP. We have a retreat cost of 1, which is fairly nice, because it's low and you can use a skateboard. We have a resistance to darkness, which is a resistance to Zoroark, which is irrelevant because they'll still get a one-hit KO of a full bench. I suppose if you play a Sudowoodo and they don't play a Devoured Field, then yeah, woo, etc. Gonna be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, it's not inspiring. But we all know that we're playing these primarily for the attacks. And the first one's a doozy. 1 fairy energy. Flip 2 coins. If either of them are heads, look at your opponent's hand. For each heads, choose a card you find there. Your opponent shuffles that card into their deck. Now, this doesn't get rid of the card. It just delays it a little bit. I mean, frankly, this is Cyrus's initiative. This is literally Cyrus's initiative. That is exactly what that card did. And I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, that was a good card that saw quite a bit of play. But it is literally exactly Cyrus's initiative. And the thing is, people did used to use Cyrus's initiative with Sableye. Now, Sableye had an attack for 0 energy, Impersonate, that let you search your deck for a supporter card, discard it, and then use it as this attack. People used to legit use Cyrus's initiative with Sableye. It was the Sableye Disruption deck, and you would play it with Luxray, GL level X, to drag Pokemon into the active and strand them there, and it was alright. It was a nice little disruption deck. Well, it's back, but now it's for 1 fairy energy. Is this enough? And the answer is, on its own, probably not. The good news is, because it is an attack, you can use Victini. Now, Victini lets you reflip both of the coins once, so if you get no heads, might as well reflip with Victini. If you flip 1 heads, then you get the chance to try again, and maybe you get 2, maybe you get 0. It's a little bit of a risk. Maybe you get 1 again, and it's irrelevant. If you get double heads, I would suggest not flipping again. And the thing here is, you're trying to disrupt your opponent as much as you can. Clearly, if you can drop this after something like a Marshadow or a Judge, that's going to have a significantly better effect, because they're going to have fewer cards in their hand. But is this better than something like the Persian we looked at the other day? And the answer might be yes. The Persian we looked at the other day for 1 colorless energy let you look at your opponent's hand and discard cards from their hand until they only had 4 remaining. Now, this potentially gives them a lower hand than that, but by the same token, it also isn't guaranteed, and it shuffles them into their deck rather than just discarding them. Now, there are some very brief situations where shuffling into the deck is actually better, Because if you take something like a Naganadel deck, they are going to want energy in the discard pile. So by shuffling the energy back into their deck, it means they can't use something like a mysterious treasure to discard the energy. And sometimes what you could do here is, if they've got Ultra Ball and 4 other cards in hand, if you can shuffle back 2 cards they want to discard, you can leave them with an Ultra Ball and 2 cards that they really don't want to discard, to leave them with a really awkward choice for using Ultra Ball. And there is a situation, there are games here, where you play this and you keep pinning heads and you get to just continually put your opponent's cards back into their deck while they essentially have nothing to do, and that's kind of hilarious. What you can also do here, and again this is a little bit awkward, but you could combine this with something like an Absol, and you rearrange the top card of your opponent's deck. You know they're not drawing very much, at which point you can use Aromatisse to get their cards back into their deck, and so on and so forth. When you play Future Sight, you get to rearrange the top 4 cards of their deck, so you can basically use this, know that your opponent's going to dead draw for a couple of turns, then use Aromatisse to get rid of cards. This is fun, and I know that Saberlion Cyrus did see a bit of play, but it just seems like with 90 HP, you're going to get KO'd fairly easily. And it's flippy. And there's just too many times you're going to shuffle 1 or 2 cards back into their deck. And then they're just going to KO you and carry on. I like it. I do think there's a lot of potential here. But I also think that there's far too many games where it's not going to do enough. The good news is, we have another option. It is the second attack. And the second attack here, for a double colorless energy, does 30 damage and a special condition of your choice. Choose one special condition. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now affected by that special condition. And I kind of like this. It means you can fit with whatever deck you want. So if you're playing a poison deck with something like Poison Barb and Survivor, maybe play 1 or 2 of these, and you've got the first attack which disrupts, as well as having this attack which can poison. If you know that your opponent is going to struggle to get out the active, you choose Confusion. If they want to attack next turn, they got to flip a coin. If they don't hit heads, they can't attack, and they take 30 damage. And that could be kind of fun. Or maybe you just put them to sleep. Of course, most of the time here, you're probably just going to be choosing Paralysis. I mean, Paralysis and Burn are the best ones here. Confusion is really nice, but it's a coin flip on your opponent's turn, so it might not work. Poison's all well and good, but it does 1 damage, whereas Burn does 2. Although admittedly, they then get to flip a coin for Burn, and unless there's a Well of Volcano Park in play, they can, just get out of it if they flip a heads. So Poison is better because it adds up over time, whereas Burn does 20 now, but they might get rid of it. I think it's going to be Burn for a little bit of immediate damage, or it's going to be Paralysis. But then again, 30 plus Paralysis on a coin flip, it's not amazing. What is good about Aromatisse here is that it doesn't have to be Paralysis. It could be Paralysis on a coin flip, but if you really need to do an extra 20 damage, it could be Burn. Or if your opponent is really going to struggle to get out the active, it can be Confusion, and then actually it's much more awkward and much more annoying. I like this a lot, but I don't know if I like it on a stage 1 for a double colorless energy. And this basically is the point. Both these attacks are fun, and both these attacks could be really good, but both these attacks are flippy, and they're on a stage 1, and it's either for a double colorless or for a fairy energy, which doesn't make it all that techable. And then we end up with, between 2 and 3 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. I want to like this a lot more than I actually like it. As it stands, I like it a bit, and I think it's going to be fun, and it is absolutely something to play around with at League. Whether it's going to be great, I don't think it is. but I'd like to be wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to know if you think it's going to be great, or if you think I'm wrong, or just if you want to say hello. Let me know, ladies and gentlemen. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule, the most important rule. Be nice, would you? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays for some more Wassy action. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.